Then after a successful career, he has started Hexagon Wealth, which is a wealth firm, and this was 26 years ago. And Sir's guiding philosophy in life is love all and serve all, which he picked up from Swami. And taking this philosophy of love all and serve all, he is carrying it both in his personal as well as his business life. And then coming to his business part, which I'll just explain in a few words. The same philosophy of love all, serve all, he has been carrying in his business life and to his clients, where he shows compassion and love through his service. And the part of Hexagon Wealth is it wants to make people financially independent, and it wants to make women independent. And Sir says that the greatest joy that he gets is when he sees a person able to save for his child's education, and without struggling, the child is able to finish his education and start his career, or a person is able to save money for his children's future marriage or retirement goals. And that is what is Hexagon Wealth all about, which is creating wealth in the right frame and the right spirit. And in this current world where the competition is heavy and we have multiple distributors and multiple advisories, the retention ratio of Hexagon Wealth is 92% across the different age groups. And this speaks volumes about Sir's guiding principles, his ethics, and his values. And taking the Hexagon Wealth part, the AUM is more than 1,000 crores. And Sir is among the top 10 distributors in the state of Karnataka. Sir has been involved in Swami's activities since he was a teenager. When he was a teenager, he got multiple interviews from Swami, and since then he has been part of Swami's mission. He has been part of and member of the media group. Sir has been the part of Brindavan Management Committee, which is again the part of CHSI Central Trust. Sir is involved in making financial decisions and advising financial decisions for the CHSI Central Trust. And this is a very Herculean task because Swami is very particular about devotees' money. Swami, in fact, used to say, "Mi tata abba soma anukunnava," which means is your grandfather's property. So Swami is very particular about the money part, and Sir is involved in making the decisions, which is very sensitive. And now, without wasting much of time, I request Sir to come over and share his experiences with us. Mr. Srikanth Bhagavat, Sir.
Om Sri Sai Ram. Let me begin by offering my humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of our loving Bhagwan. To be speaking here in the Sai Ramesh Hall, in the most sacred grounds of Brindavan, is not something that I imagined myself to be doing. Last week, last year, a few years back, no, it wasn't. But yet here I am, and I'm thankful to the alumni for having called me here and giving me the opportunity to present what I have learned in life, or my experiences as Swami, my journey essentially with all of you, and I'm hoping that you will have something to take away at the end of this conversation. If I was to say it's a journey, I will essentially have to start at the beginning of how I came in touch with Swami. Okay? And for this, I must be thanking my grandmother, because early in the 1970s, she would come to Puttaparthi and spend a lot of time in Parthi, having in the precincts of Prashanti Nilayam. In those days, I was very young, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. And once she would come back from Parthi, she would sit with us and recount her experiences. But what really stuck in my mind was not her recounting experiences, but she would have the habit of reading out to us. So if I remember right, it would be Man of Miracles, Howard Moffat's, okay? And she would read out of that book. Many of you might have read that. Okay, it's an amazing book. And I would just sit there on the bed, listen. All I would do was listen. And I think I'm grateful that I was at that age where I did not question, and it was only listening. And I know those older to me would question, but so there was no dramatic manner, but it was a gradual inculcation of Swami and Sai into our lives. While I had this wonderful beginning, I did not get the chance to actually physically experience Swami till 1977. Okay, I would have been about 10 years old at that time. And it was the family's good fortune that my elder sister got married to Yadalam Gangadhar Shetty's son right here in Brindavan. Okay? And it was Swami who conducted the wedding. So as a first experience, it was amazing. We were sitting there, and Swami was there right in the mandapam all the time and blessing the couple. So as a first experience, it was also overwhelming in some sense to witness his miracles. Because I do remember sitting there on the ground and Swami was there on the mandapam, and when the time of the muhurtam came, he materialized a Mangal Sutra for my sister. Okay? And because of the angle that I was sitting in, I could actually see the Mangal Sutra forming under his hand. You can imagine for a boy of that age to be experiencing that was something which one cannot forget. We were living in Mumbai in those days, okay? And after having experienced Swami's divine presence during the wedding and then going back, I had the good fortune of coming back in 1979 to Bangalore. And therein started a different part of our journey. So while there were a number of wonderful darshans, as a teenager, as a young adult, somewhere I lost my way. And it took me many years to get back. When I say lost my way, what do I mean? I had got into, unfortunately, many bad habits. Okay. And in spite of me somewhere knowing that what I'm doing is wrong, I could not get rid of it. These are problems with many teenagers, many youngsters face. Okay. Having got into something bad, how do you extricate yourself? Before getting into these bad habits, one thinks it's easy to run away and escape, but the clutch becomes so heavy. And in spite of the number of attempts I made, I could not get away. That is how bad temptation can get. I would come here. So it is this strange paradox. I'm coming here, I'm having Swami's darshan, and in between darshans, I'm not a great guy. When I'm in darshan, I'm fine. When I'm out, what's happening to me? I knew that Swami doesn't like me doing this. But at the same time, I want Swami's love. So there's this huge yearning that I want Swami's love, and I need to get rid of these bad habits that I've got. And I could not do it. Then it came to me in such a way that somewhere around, I think must have been the year 2000 or so, I I was at the end of my tether because I was not able to do what I wanted to do. And I sat here outside the Trai Brindavan. I sat on a bench on one afternoon. Nobody was around. Swami was inside Trai. I sat there and closed my eyes, and I just prayed to him from the bottom of my heart. It was out of desperation. And I prayed to Swami, Swami, why is this happening? I don't want this. You take it. Out of desperation, I said, Swami, you take away this bad habit. What were these bad habits? I'm not afraid to say. I was addicted to smoking, okay? And at times alcohol. Both we know is not good for spiritual progress, and Swami would definitely not entertain anything like this. And that's why I wanted to give them away. It was only after that desperate prayer to Swami, and I said, Swami, I don't know how to do it, you take it. It was after that complete surrender that in that jiffy, in that instant, I knew I had got rid of it. And never ever did I look back at any of those. It was that one instant of surrender, and Swami took it all away. After that, even if you locked me up for days together in a room with a packet of cigarettes there, no effect. I wouldn't be touching it. That is how Swami reacts to our surrender, which we often forget to do. Okay? Swami, in one of his discourses, speaks of a parable, okay, of this Brahmin who had just been honored in court with a new shawl. And this Brahmin is walking back to his home with a shawl draped around his shoulders and walking past the river where 4 washermen are sitting. And these washermen see him with a shiny new shawl and say, hey, I don't think this belongs to him. And they pounce upon him saying, let me take it, it's not yours. And they start beating him up. As they beat him up, he shouts, Narayana, Narayana. Lord Narayana in his abode hears, and he gets up and walks out. And then suddenly he turns back. Swami says, Lord Narayana turns back, comes back and sits. And Mahalakshmi asks, what happened? Why did you come back? He says, no, he doesn't need my help. He's countering blow by blow. As they hit him, he's hitting them back. He doesn't need me. So there was no surrender. When he called out Narayana, the Lord went immediately, without a second waste. But when the surrender did not happen, he came back. So many times we forget to surrender. He has told us. N number of times Swami has told us. But we forget to surrender. What to do? But thankfully we remember. There was one time when this was in Prashanti Nilayam, and we were sitting in the veranda. At that point of time, Swami was walking with the help of any of the 2 of the boys, because his hip was not in good condition after the fracture, etc. Okay, and I was sitting on the other side of the car, and Swami was walking in, and he looks at me and said, When Swami looks, he's looking only at you. There cannot be an error. And I got up immediately, and he pointed to the door, car door. So I went and opened the car door for him. And then Swami says, lift him and keep him inside the car. Now that, imagine Swami is asking you to help him get into the car, and help him is not hold him by the hand. We had to bodily lift him and carefully place him in the car. I got scared. I could not do it. Why? I did not surrender. I think now, if I had not let fear come in the way, if I had surrendered, anything would have been possible. So in spite of knowing, at times in our heart, we are not completely surrendered to Him. So there's a thin line we should all be aware of. Surrender is complete surrender. That's all. Give up to Him, whatever. And whether it is impossible or possible should not even enter your mind, because once you've surrendered, He will make it happen. And just calling out to Him at any point of time. And He's there. He's a protector. He has made us. He is going to protect us. There was one time when I was driving back after darshan at Kukke Subramanya. Okay, it was in the afternoon. It was me and my wife driving back, and it's a narrow road. And there was a tempo in front of us, and the driver was drunken. Try as I must, I could not overtake him. I wanted to go ahead. As a driver would, he doesn't want an obstruction ahead. I was trying to overtake, but every time I would go to the side, he would swerve to the side and block me and not allow me to overtake. And it was in the afternoon, 3 o'clock. You're not in the best of energies. You want to do it, I let go, and I became reckless. Here was a drunken driver in front of me, and I have lost my control, and I have become reckless. So I go much to the side and try to force myself ahead. At that high speed, very high speed, I was forcing myself ahead, and there was an oncoming car. It was a narrow road, not these 4-lane highways, not a 2-lane highways. It was a very narrow road, and trees and a sharp side on the right. And I'm overtaking this drunken man, and he's in no mood to allow me. And there's another car coming from me at high speed. There's absolutely no place for me to do anything. It was me and my wife Sham. Both of us shouted, "Sai Ram." Just shouted. It comes out naturally. We're in trouble. We want, like, "Sai Ram," we shouted. It was an instant. The car was behind us and we were ahead. That is Swami. There are multiple things here. When Swami, when you call out, He's there. If you're in trouble and you call out, He's there. And the control of time and space shows. That is Swami. Doesn't matter. Physically, He's somewhere else. But the entire universe, the time and space is all His creation. He can do anything to it. If you call out to Him. We should never forget. Swami as a protector. It's amazing. I must tell you that you've heard many times Swami use the term cancer cancel. He could do that. And He did that for my father. My father was diagnosed with cancer, and he was worried. Yes, he had undergone an operation, but then Swami blessed him and he said, "Cancer cancelled." At that instant, my father stopped taking any treatment. Generally, it is chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and whatnot. Okay? And the doctors had advised him to do that. But since Swami had blessed him, that was his faith, he stopped taking any treatment. It's now what? 20 years back, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and there's been no recurrence. Okay, he doesn't take any treatment. Okay, when Swami says cancer, cancel, that's it. Okay. I must tell you a small story. It was about 2 years or so after Swami said cancer, cancel. And my father was visiting my sister in London. And while he was there, suddenly he had pain and he observed blood in his urine. And the doctors immediately got worried. My sister is a doctor. My brother-in-law is a doctor. They got worried. And they said, "No, you have to immediately take so-and-so treatment. You have to go get yourself, all the kind of scans to see if the recurrence of the tumor." Father did not do any of that. He called and told me about it and said, go to Swami. I rushed to Parthi. Normally, how difficult is it to get a word across to Swami? Okay, unless Swami wants to speak to you, it will never happen, right? But, he knows when we are in trouble. And after all the darshan was over, it was only me sitting in the veranda. And Swami comes out of his room and says, Srikanth, with this very sweet voice. Then I rushed to him. Then I told him what happened. He said, nothing to worry. Materialized vibhuti and said, give this to your father. The lesson here really is a test of faith. Okay? He could have very well gone on and taken treatment. He could have very well gone on and got himself examined. He did not even get himself examined. That was the faith he had in Swami. That once Swami said cancel, it is cancelled. Don't go back to it. So he refused to do anything. Nothing happened. That is Swami's love, and that is his faith. Surrender, faith, all are so important that you should never forget to practice. And you can be sure that your faith will be tested. You can be dead sure that your faith will be tested at some time or the other. You only have to hold on to Swami's feet. For that is what is going to keep you on the path. Okay. There are some incredible stories of how Swami has protected my father. Okay. So, during the introduction, he was about me. Brother was telling about my father being a consultant to the International Monetary Fund. So, at one point of time, he was advisor to the president of Uganda on behalf of the International Monetary Fund. And while he was there, it was the time of President Milton Obote. Okay? And some of you here may have heard the story because when my father was a Samarpan speaker many years back, he did relate this. But here you are, as a batch of young students, I must relate it again to all of you. Okay? There was a coup. There was a military coup. And as you know, a coup in African countries can be horrible. They're very bloody. They're terrible, very violent, and nobody gets to go. And along with the coup, there's always huge looting. So happened because of my father's position, he was in one of the most important buildings in all of Uganda. And if it's an important building, that's where the rebels head first. All right? So the entire convoy of rebels were headed to this place called the Nile Mansion, where my parents were staying in an apartment. There's shooting all around, plundering all around, and it's a massive building with many apartments. And systematically, the rebels were going apartment to apartment, looting and doing whatever they had to do in harming everybody who was there. It was horrible. Many people ran away from there to escape the looting. My father decided to stay put. While some of his colleagues on the same floor, the next apartment, said, Mr. Bhagavat, we'd better leave now. For some reason, he said, no, it is more dangerous outside than inside, and I'm going to stay here. He prayed and stayed. Eventually, it was his turn. The dreaded knock happened. And they opened the door. And there was a group of soldiers there, along with a senior rank-looking person who was possibly a captain or head of that rebel group. And because it was an important building where a lot of diplomats and VIPs were there, he himself was going checking who's there. And if they needed to be shot or whatever, jailed, whatever be the case. They knocked on the door. My father opened the door. He was polite. They came in. They wanted to know who he was. He told them. And the last thing you want to do is resist. When you have a set of soldiers there who are probably drunken and in a spree of looting and with guns in their hands, you don't want to resist. You open the door, let them come, do what they want. And in they came. On the bureau there was a photograph of Swami. And this commandant comes in and he asks, "Who is that?" And my father explains to him Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba and who he is and where he is from and why they worship him. It was an instantaneous about turn. From being somebody who had come to loot, he says, "Mr. Bhagavat, I'm here to help you. If you need anything, just call me, I'll be downstairs." And they went out. All it took was seeing the beautiful form of Bhagwan there. And Bhagwan had reached out through that beautiful form and transformed that. When he wants to protect, he'll protect anywhere, anyhow, anyway. He's a master director. He's that huge script writer for all of us. Okay. There was a time in Prashanti Nilayam, I think it was Guru Purnima, the program had got over, and it was pretty late in the evening. By the time we were driving back, we decided to drive back. It had already got dark. It was a cloudy, very, very cloudy, dark, stormy-looking night. But we decided to drive back. It was me, my wife, my driver was there, and my two sons, but both my sons were very, very young at that time. Okay. And we said, okay, we were full of confidence. We said, let's drive back. And we're driving back. As we were coming out of Shanti Bhavan to get into a car, my sister comes with a request. There was this girl who was sitting next to her during darshan, and she needed to reach the Bangalore airport urgently because she had a flight back to Hong Kong. She had a taxi. She had engaged a Scorpio, she had engaged a taxi, and she was going. But for some reason, she was a little nervous about traveling back alone, and she wanted company. She didn't want to come and sit in our car, she wanted company. So, a little bit of musical chairs happened in the car. What had happened was my driver was there, and I was sitting in the front seat on the left side. My wife and the two boys were sitting in the back seat. So my wife said, okay, so I'll go and give her company there. So my wife went and sat in the girl's car. I moved from the front seat to the back with the two boys. This was the musical chairs that happened. And we set off on the journey. Very, very heavy rain. Crazy rain. It was dark. We didn't have the 4-lane highway that we have now. It was a road without a median. Okay. And as it had to happen, in the dark night with the rain, my driver could not spot a truck that was right ahead of us with the lights not on. So he could not make out that there was a truck. He had tried to overtake or something, come back, and at very high speed, in a small car, he rammed into the truck. He was trying to overtake, he rammed right into the truck. And there was a sumo behind us, at equal speed, rammed us from behind. It was a most horrible accident. Okay. It was entirely Swami's grace that nothing happened to us apart from a few scratches. Okay. Why nothing happened? The car had collapsed into the truck in front, only the left side. The right side where the driver sat was okay. The left side had got crashed into it. I was sitting in the back. I had vacated my front seat and come to the back. Otherwise, my head would have got chopped off. Now, why do I say Swami is a master script writer? He had scripted all this to check if we were willing to help. Because we were willing to help, and my wife had gone to help that girl, and I had come back, the accident happened. But nothing happened to us. The car was smashed. When my parents saw it the next day, they were in Parthi, and in the morning they came back, they saw the car lying as a hulk on the side, and they wondered, did anybody survive? Maybe somebody is not breaking the bad news to us. So horrid was it. But that little act, the little act of, yes, I will help, and the musical chairs happened. So what did happen? So karma, if we have to go through, we have to go through. But His grace, when it becomes involved, makes the going easy for us. We had to undergo the accident, we undergo the accident. But it was because of His grace that nothing happened to us. We should allow that grace to happen. We should not be wanting to do something else and completely throw it away by our wrong acts, our impurities. The Swami as a protector is just amazing. Okay. It was, I think, right here in the Trai Brindavan, one of the interviews. I was going through a very bad time, personally. And it was a moment of depression. We all go through goods and bads, and I was going through a particularly bad phase. And that was when, here in an interview, Swami materializes a famous Sai diamond and gives it to me. There's a mark of protection. Okay. That was it. Slowly able to come out of it. So when we have given ourselves to Him, He is there for us. He'll never let go. Never, never let go. Each of us should remember that. And come what may, not forget that He will not let go. We may try to let go because of our maya. He will not let go. That's His love for us. Okay. His love is amazing. Love is immense. And in that phase when we are getting to know Swami, Swami is at His, loving best, showering us. Every interaction is something to remember. Okay, He will shower us with so many interviews. He will shower us with so many gifts. We'll be completely overwhelmed, and that will be the hook. That will be the hook of love that He uses so that we never go away. Right. So, even with all that love, so there was one time we were sitting in an interview in Prashanti Nilayam, and I was sitting very close to Swami's feet. And Swami was speaking, and then suddenly he puts his hand here on my neck. And I was wearing a gold chain with a pendant, and he pulls it out and says, "Identi, yemidi." That's Swami. This is something my parents have given me. It was a pendant, Om pendant or something. Yes, my parents had given me. I'm wearing it. Nenemana iste eskuntava. If I give you something, will you wear it? See, why would it be? But Swami, that is the maryada and that is a protocol which He would so lovingly ask. He will not take you for granted. We take Swami for granted. But He would not take. He would first ask, if I give you something, obviously the answer is yet. Yes. How can, in any imaginable universe, the answer will not be no. The answer will be yes. But He asks. And then He materialized a beautiful gold chain for me with Swami's face on the pendant. And He put it around. Okay. So what I'm saying is that Swami, his ways were amazing. And you take every point, how loving He was. At the same time, very playful. Like the time he asked me to, as I related, open the door and ask him to be seated. I think that was, he was teasing me. He was playful. Okay. There was one time where we were all sitting with him in the interview, and you would have probably seen many of the devotees wearing Rolex watches, Swami's gift. And he took out one such Rolex watch and he was wearing it to my dad. Okay? So as he was putting it on my dad's wrist, it seemed to be slipping. It seemed to be slipping, and I immediately put my hands below, not to let the watch. And Swami looks playfully at me and says, "Nee koda kavala? Do you also want it?" How can I say? I can't say yes, I can't say no. I was not looking to grab that watch. I was only looking to protect it from falling, right? and I told Swami, ledu pattudani pattukuntananu anukunnanu. And I told Swami, "Nee koda istanu." He said, "I'll give you also." But he did not give it to me on that day. All right. The next few weeks or months, the only thing in my head was watch. The only thing in my head was watch. Every time I go for darshan, I'm looking at Swami. Will he give me the watch today? Will he give me the watch today? Will he give me the watch today? And so many weeks went by. He was teasing me, waiting, teasing, and then finally one day he calls me to the car and then gives me the watch. Okay, so Swami can be very playful at times. He teases you just to see what you do, how you react. Okay, we never know what. Okay, there was one afternoon, me and my wife were after darshan. We had finished lunch and we were just taking rest in the room in Roundhouse. And suddenly, Brother Satyajit rushes up and says, "Swami's calling, come quickly." Just put on whatever we had, we rushed. And at that time it was, Swami's residence was at the Purna Chandra Hall, not the Yajur Madin. No, it was at the Purna Chandra Hall. We go in, Swami wants us to eat masala dosas. No other agenda, nothing. No other agenda. He wanted us to eat masala dosas. He says, "Good masala dosas, eat and go." That's all. So there are different angles to Swami which as we think back, we realize how it can manifest, You never know. A significant turning point in my life was much earlier on, okay, to which I will be ever grateful to Swami. So this was 2000 or so, very early on, and Swami materialized a Shivalingam for me and gave it to me. And he said, "This Shivalingam has Narayana and Shiva in it. Take it and do Abhishekam to it every day." You must realize, I was never a religious person. I was never a disciplined person. But that one act of Swami giving me a Shivalingam, entrusting it to me and said, "Do Abhishekam every day," I cannot not do it. Correct? I have to follow that instruction. And that got me into a discipline. It got me into a ritual. It got me into a practice. Now every morning I will have my bath, I will do puja, I will do Abhishekam, and then only do anything else. And every day when you are following this, the way you work changes. The daily act of Abhishekam transforms you. So from an indisciplined person, over the next couple of years, he brought so much discipline into my life. I was able to let go of my bad habits. From an indisciplined person who had no religious anchor, I had a solid anchor. I had got into a practice. So this daily discipline, I think, is a very critical determinant to how we behave later on in life. And that Swami inculcated so easily into me. I was able to follow this. Okay. Going back to the playful aspect, it was again in Trahi Brindavan. And after every time my father went for darshan, had interview, and he would come back all excited, and we'd also be very excited. He said, "What did Swami say? What did Swami say? We want to know." So sometimes he would come back with a lot of exciting things. Sometimes it was confidential. He won't talk to us. Okay? But we knew where to stop. There was one time he came back, very amused, very excited. Okay, it was after the morning darshan was over, and everybody was sitting in Trai. So Swami was sitting there in the Trai Brindavan, and with just 3-4 devotees sitting there, my father amongst them. And my father happened to be sitting next to Swami at that point of time on the floor. And the whole talk was how Swami was weak because he was not able to walk. He had become looking very frail and needed support, etc. So there was some discussion on how Swami was weak, to use a word. And Swami asked my father, "Come, you want to see how weak I am? Lift my foot, lift my leg." So he was sitting and he asked my father to hold his leg and lift it. My father went, held his leg, tried as much. He could not even budge Swami's foot. Not an inch, not a centimeter, not a millimeter. Gangadhar Settigaru was there. Then Swami asked, "Nu kodara." So then both of them tried to move Swami's leg. Nothing. Then a third person was there. Warden was there, Narsimurthy. He was a more heftily built person. Called him also. All the three tried to move Swami's leg. Could not. So what we see is not what Swami is. Okay? We are fooled by that. Swami is not his body. Swami is the creator. He is, period. We don't realize it. And nothing happens without his will. If he wills that they are able to move his leg, they'll be able to move his leg. If he doesn't will that they be able to move his leg, he cannot. So you can imagine Swami looking frail and weak, but 3 people trying to move his leg and they're not able to do so. That's how Swami Sama, with small acts, shows his true self of what he is, and we should be alert to this. Okay. An unforgettable event for all of us was when Swami blessed us with the good fortune of visiting our home. This was in the year 2002 when Swami visited our home in Bangalore. The entire excitement, the preparation that goes into saying, "Oh my Lord, the avatar, the God is visiting our house. What do we have to do?" The whole lot of advice coming in, the whole of do's and don'ts, the protocol, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that, do this way, do this that way. There's so many things happening. But there's a lot of tension, a lot of excitement that Swami is going to come, and also stress. Sometimes Swami promises, but then whether he visits in this year or next year or virtually or physically, we never know. Okay? But he did visit us. He did come along and visit our home, and my sister who was in London was able to catch a last-minute flight, Swami's grace, and come over right in time for the visit with a day's notice. Just a day's notice. Okay? And there. Since I'm speaking about my sister, it's a very, very strange coincidence. As I'm speaking to you now, thousands of kilometers away, she's speaking to her Samiti in London. I don't know what it means, but we thought it is an amazing coincidence that my eldest and the youngest, both of us today, at the very same time, are speaking. Okay. It was completely different experience, because when Swami comes and visits a home, it's like a transformation. Suddenly he's like a member of the family. He's so casual. He's walking around the house, talking to us, doing this, doing that. It's overwhelming. And then he just pulls a chair. He sits on a chair in the dining room, and then everybody flops down around him, and he starts talking about his younger days. He talks about stories. Amazing. Okay, one of the stories that I don't forget. He was speaking about many years ago, and he had visited Andhra Pradesh. Okay, he was touring Andhra. And this was the time he said, Swami was saying, he was crossing the Godavari with all the devotees. Okay. And he told us the story that the Godavari was in spate because of very heavy rains. Okay. And everybody were warning him not to do it. But then Swami, being Swami, said, nothing will happen, let us go. And the boatload of devotees and Swami were crossing because they had to visit a factory or so on the other side, if I remember right. And the time came when the boat had to go under the bridge. And the water was rising so fast, the danger was that the boat would get crushed under the bridge. All the devotees were praying, Swami, Swami, Swami. And Swami said nothing. He went there and asked everybody to close their eyes. Everybody closed their eyes and they were on the other side of the bridge. So you would have heard stories of how Swami stopped the Chitravati Nadi in Prashanti Nilayam from flooding the ashram. So these are instances where Swami is showing his mastery over time and space, and not for one, but for many people, millions of people, hundreds of people. It's amazing. So these were the amazing stories that we had when Swami had visited us, and now we feel our home is a temple because he has, just like Brindavan. We at times take Swami for granted. Okay. To just think that he has walked all these places. His footsteps are here everywhere. Every stone, every soil is sacred here. And we walk around at times as if it's any other place. No. Let us not fool ourselves. Let us not forget the sacredness of this place, that the avatar has walked every step here, every tile here. So when sometimes due to some maintenance has to happen and something has to be changed, and then Brother Vinay and me suddenly go into silence, because if it has to be changed, that is something which Swami's foot has touched, something Swami's hand has touched. How can we change it? And we just go into silence. We don't know what to do. But that is the sacredness of this place where all of you are studying and living. What great fortune. So in the early days when I had to come here and wait for Swami's darshan, wait in the token line, wait for Swami's, be seated somewhere at the far corner of the room, unless one is lucky and Swami's blessings that we are sitting on the aisle or a corner where it is easier to have Swami's darshan, or maybe even get his pada namaskar. Who knows? From that kind of a journey, and one day I was clambering on top of Trai. I was on the roof of Trai checking for some leakage, because there happened to be some water leakage and I wanted to check what it was. We are not getting the right report. So I went up there. Suddenly struck me, this is Swami's abode. And I am walking on the roof of Swami's abode. It's very powerful. Let us be constant awareness that this is Swami's abode and he has touched every atom here. Don't ever leave that, because you're so fortunate to be here. Every time I walk here, I try to remember that I am in the most sacred space when I'm walking here. Okay. Sometimes we never know what we have done to have His grace, to have His love. We'll never know. We think we know, we don't know actually. It could be anything pertaining to our previous lives. Okay. And there was one such instance in 2002 when in the morning, that day it so happened that my father and me had gone for darshan, and the rest of the family was at home. It's only both of us had gone to Parthi, and Swami called us in and said, "Today is a good day. Come back with your wife and daughter-in-law." He said, "Come back with your wife and daughter-in-law." It was in the morning. We had darshan. We did not know whether we heard right. We had to go get them and come back. But we did so. We rushed home, asked them to get ready, got them into the car, drove right back to Parthi. The four of us. Swami was very particular that my mother and my wife both be present there. We didn't know what was coming, honestly. We just came back, then after a while, Swami calls us in. One of the most divine interviews. And it was during those interview that my mother and my wife both had the chance to sing bhajans to Swami there in the interview room, to sing to Swami. It was a deeply emotional experience for both of them. And I do remember that after my mom sang, and then my wife sang, she sang Manasa Bhajare, and she could not finish the bhajan because she was overcome with emotion. And then Swami said, okay, stop. And then he called his assistant in and said, yes, it is time. And we still don't know what was coming. He asked all of us to hold our hands. So my father's hands like this, and then my mom's hands, then my hands, and then my wife's hands. All the four of us had to keep our hands like this. And then Swami places a Hiranyagarbha lingam in my father's hands and says, this is going to be yours, take it home. The Hiranyagarbha lingam which you have seen is what Swami manifests during Mahashivaratri. And this was the golden lingam, okay, which he called the Hiranyagarbha lingam. And he places it in my father's hand and says, that is the most amazing blessing from Swami that one can get. Correct? And that resides in our puja room, and every morning we have the good fortune of doing Abhishekam to it. We don't know what we have done to earn that grace, but we have. Never question Swami. Never ask. Sometimes our human mind comes in and we try to question. No, it only upsets the entire thing. Okay. So his every word is so important. We have to hang on to every word. And I'll tell you why, okay, from my limited experience. So at two different occasions, Swami described once to me and once to my father. He described me as Mitabhashi and Sthita Pragya. He said, you're Mitabhashi, and then at some other time he said, you're Sthita Pragya. These words define who you become. If I was not that, I have become that. Okay. The constant remembrance of that, this is what Swami has said about you, so this is what one should become. So normally I don't speak much. This platform, Swami is speaking, so I'm speaking, otherwise I don't speak much. Okay. The ability to go through the goods and bads of life, the highs and lows of life, of the constant, because we are faced every day, whether in our personal lives or our business lives or student lives, we have seen ups and downs. But to go through all of them at a level plane is what is important. Not to get impacted, not to get excited, not to get depressed. Okay? And in my business, in my career, it is so very important to be that balanced self. Okay? I live in a world, I practice in a world where greed can very easily enter, where one can lose control of ourselves, because I'm in the business of investments, I'm in the business of managing wealth, I'm dealing with markets day in and day out, and markets can go up, can go down, can make money, can lose money. Nor do I get excited, nor do I get sad. And this is what helps me manage my clients far more effectively than if I were not. Okay. So hang on to every word and be that. That is most important. Okay. I think remembering him constantly, his name, trying to be aware, if not being aware of him constantly is so important. Okay? And seeing his hand in every act is only going to make your life more joyful. Okay. I remember one time I'm a motorcyclist. Okay, it's one of my passions to go motorcycling. And there was this time when I had wanted to go on a motorcycling trip to Ladakh. Okay, far away. And I was not going as part of any group, I was going alone with my young son. That is all. Into the Himalayas. Some of you may be knowing how treacherous those roads are. And I was filled with apprehension. I decided I would go. I prayed, but there's a lot of apprehension, and I was praying continuously. And as I get down the Leh airport, walk off the aircraft, and coming out of the airport, I hear a voice, Sai Ram, Sai Ram. I look around, and there's somebody holding a placard, welcome Mr. Sai Ram. Okay, very strange. But nobody has gone to meet, and within a second that person has disappeared. By the time I've told my son, that person has disappeared. Okay. Whether somebody met him, I don't know. But hearing Sai Ram as I entered Ladakh filled me up with confidence. Okay. And then the person who has arranged the motorcycles for me, okay, it was through some contact somewhere, some travel agent, no idea. Turns out to be a Swami devotee. Turns out that he is very active in his samiti in Ladakh, and he is the one who's taking care of me. So we go to some other place which is remote, and there's somebody who Swami has touched, and that person is sent to help you. What more do you want? Okay. So we learn to see Swami in every act. We learn to see Swami everywhere, and then you're filled with confidence. You know that nothing can happen to you, and that courage will help you do the right thing anywhere, anytime. So now you're students. As you go into your career, as you go into your work life, you're going to be facing so many challenges. There will be a lot of conflicts because you come out with a certain set of values and the world is practicing another set of values. And this conflict will always be there. And you have to keep your head on your shoulders. You have to remember that Swami is with you and only do the right thing. This has helped me overcome so many challenges in my work life that dharma is important, to follow your dharma, whatever it is you are, whatever role you are playing, follow that dharma. Okay? And follow it with the courage that Swami is with you. Nothing can happen, and you can only progress and get better and better. The one thing that has helped, the one most important that the Swami keeps telling us to progress spiritually is to give up your ego. Easier said than done. Much, much easier to say give up your ego than actually giving up your ego. But participating in seva, I think, is the best way to get rid of your ego. I was able to get rid of some of my bad qualities by surrendering to him, but getting rid of ego, much more challenging task. Okay? And what happens is, when you're in seva, you're working with a whole lot of other people, other sevadal, other volunteers, other devotees, and you want to do some action. If you come there with a feeling of superiority, you're bound to have conflicts. Okay? And that conflict will not allow you to move forward. I've messed up many times because of that. And I regret it. But the regret is useful only if I'm able to give away that ego. The number of opportunities that Swami has given me, I might have bungled because of ego. But Swami is so gracious, so loving, he keeps giving you more and more and more opportunities. And these are the opportunities you should use to get rid of your ego. So whether it was in any of the functions that I've been in Swami's organization, or even later as I grow more intensely into the seva activities, the one thing that I have benefited by is getting rid. I don't know if it's all gone, but I know a good portion of what was there is got rubbed into the ground. That you can be sure of. If you're part of Swami's organization and you're taking part in seva activities, your ego will get rubbed into the ground. And that is the only reason why I think I am there. Okay. So that I would want all of you to just live his teachings. And the world will be a more joyful place for you in either way. Okay. So I think this brings me to the end of my sharing of experiences with you. Okay. I hope I have been of some use in transferring Swami's love and joy to all of you. Okay. Jai Sai Ram.
Sairam. We would like to thank Srikanth Bhagavat Garu for his inspiring speech. I'm sure, as he mentioned at the beginning of the speech, each one of us can take home one lesson, that is, have faith in Swami. If you have faith in Swami, he'll take us across and he'll be there for us at any point in time. I would like to thank the ABC team, the hostel, Brindavan Management Committee, the Brindavan Seva Dals for organizing this session. And after the program, we'll have our Tri Pradakshina, and post that the prasadam will be served to all the devotees. I would like to call upon Mr. Ravi Kumar, Warden, Sri Tejasa Institute of Higher Learning, and Mr. Sri Venkat Gosavi Garu, State President, Karnataka South, to felicitate Mr. Srikanth Bhagavat. We'll be having Mangalarti, followed by Pradakshina.
हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक पति महेश्वरा ओम जय जगदीश हरे शशिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रित कल्पलतिका आश्रित कल्पलतिका आपद्बांधवा ओम जय जगदीश हरे माता पिता गुरुदैवमु मरियन्तयो नीवे स्वामी मरियन्तयो नीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ ॐ जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी ओ साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल आरती अंदुको मंगल आरती अंदुको मंदर गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण सत्य नारायण 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 सत्य नारायण नारायण सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण सत्य नारायण 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 सत्य नारायण नारायण सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण सत्य नारायण 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 सत्य नारायण नारायण सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा ओम शांति 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 समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोका सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति 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 जय